October, and the meeting minutes. If there are any comments on the minutes, any changes that need to be made, let us know. If not, we'll take a motion. I guess I'm going backwards here. Don, do you want to do a roll first?
Yeah, I just have a couple people I want to check. Susan Flam, I don't see her on here. Matt Stinchcom, I don't see signed in yet. Josh Cohen, Sean Casey, don't see him. And Stan Yarian, I don't see Paul yet. And I see town supervisor, is that Denal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I do see that Matt just signed in now, so. And is Tara or Hallie signed in from CDRPC or not? Don't see either of them yet. Okay.
Sherry's had her baby by now, hasn't
She
she?
must have had our baby.
Tara, yes, yes.
Yeah, she's on maternity leave, so it'll be Haley if anybody comes.
Yep. Okay. We're good.
Cool. All right. Minutes. We, if there are no changes, we need a motion and a second to adopt the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jennifer. If anyone opposes, please make it known now. Okay, passes unanimously. So we have a pretty straightforward agenda. Again, a lot of the same things. I mean, the first thing is the climate carnival. We're going to talk about that. So I'll turn it over to Jolene and the crew. I just would like to say thank you to everyone who put a lot of energy into that great event. It was a beautiful day. It was nice that it wasn't as hot as July. The setup was great. I thought where we were located relative to the last time was a good improvement in terms of how to use the space. We, from Arthur's Point Farms perspective, had a great time and enjoyed seeing most of you all there and a lot of other people. But I think we want to talk about what was positive about the event and also, more importantly, what we learned for the future, I think. But Jolene, do you want to take the lead on that?
Okay, well, I'll let Don give the statistics, but I think overall it was a really great day. The vendors all seemed very pleased with the turnout and the ability. I think the layout, Don, was amazing. It gave more space. People were able to flow through the fairgrounds. There were some takeaways from it. We were very, very understaffed for volunteers. Pretty much a huge shout out to Wendy and Solid Waste. And the solid waste department, highway department, and engineering department that lended a hand to us. But for actual volunteers for this event, we're not going to be able to plan another one without more participation. Will was there that day. Tistria was there for a day for the setup. But pretty much it was just me, Don, Will, and Wendy. So it's a big undertaking. It's a huge undertaking for Don. When I was working for the county, I had more accessibility, more ability to assist Don. This time I did not have that capability. So I think just moving forward, I think Don and I both agreed this is an event that should be held every other year. Not yearly. We just have to have more assistance from this committee and the other climate smart committees. And Don, do you want to give some statistics?
Yeah, I just add that I think, if we're going to keep the same format and do the same things the same way again, I can't do it every single year. It's just too much work for everyone involved, and especially like Jolene was 100% volunteer this year. She put in a tremendous effort. So thanks, Jolene. I think we all appreciate that. As far as numbers, the vendors seemed very happy. I talked to almost all of them, asked them what they thought, and they were all very happy. So it was a successful event all around. Numbers were down though. We had a few extra vendors, total of 45 vendors this time versus 43 last time. We had 53 that signed up, but a few of them had to back out at the last minute, and one was a no-show. So we had like eight folks that, that weren't able to, that wanted to participate, but due to staffing or some other reason, they just couldn't make it this year. As far as numbers, we had a car counter set up that counted 328 cars coming into the parking lots during the 4 hours that we were open. So if you assign like somewhere like 2.25 to 2.5 people per car, plus some walk-ins from the Church Street entrance, my estimate is about 800 visitors, not including the vendors that were there, but just visitors to visit the event this time. Last year, 2 years ago, here's Holly. 2 years ago, we estimated about 1,200, so that's about a 30, a third less, a third fewer visitors. Talking to the Repair Cafe folks, they had 80. They thought it was a success also. They had about 80 items that they repaired, fixed for folks, compared to that to 2 years ago when they had 120. So also about a third fewer fixes. So I think that's a pretty accurate number as far as attendance and people showing up, and so not bad. It was a good turnout, but not the sort of the overwhelming crush of people that we had 2 years ago. But everybody, and talking to Christina a little bit, we had a little email exchange, and she said, she was busy the entire time. People were talking to the vendors the entire time. So, there were no problems with lack of attendance, just less than we had last time. That's all. The food trucks, they still had lines. I didn't talk to the food trucks specifically, but they looked like they were less busy, but they still had lines in front of them. So I think they were okay. A few notes that I have here. The music was a little loud for some people. I think that was partially because of the stage that they were on. It's like this big square boom box that just kind of shoots out. And then if you were in front of that line, that line of sound, I know, David, you were. I don't know if you thought the music was a little loud in your position, but I did get some feedback from like Hawthorne Valley folks who were also in that sort of line of sound that said the music was a little bit loud. So we might change that up next time, arrange things a little bit differently. I thought the local task forces were more organized this time. They had quite a few more like kids activities going on, and they seem to be really busy. Maybe we get some feedback from them, during this. Better exhibits. The budget was tight up until the end, so that's another thing I think we would have to. We do have a balance left, a significant balance left, because we had one sponsor came in right at the end. The Spark of Hudson gave us a significant donation, but that was also one of the problems. Just we could have done more if we had the money sooner, as far as like promotion and advertising and doing a few more things, and maybe even paying for a few extra exhibits that would draw people in. So that was also, I think, something we'd have to think about next time. So that's my takeaway from this year's event. I will add that I got a call from Eric Barnes just yesterday about the Capital Apple and Wine Festival folks, because he was wondering if we wanted to reserve the the same weekend next year, which we just can't. Again, doing it, so I told him that we were not, but when I told him that, he said, well, the reason he was calling was Apple and Wine Festival folks wanted to have their event the weekend that we had ours this year. And they were interested in possibly collaborating with us at that event. So I think this is something we should talk about. They would be the sort of the organizers, paying for things. They paid for the bands. They paid for, they organized the food trucks and everything, but they were looking for add-ons to make this a bigger draw for them also. So
great, yeah.
think about would be, could we set up a space either mixed right in with their event or off to the side of their event somehow, that would make the workload a lot easier for us. We wouldn't have to worry about parking or food trucks or bands or anything like that. And we just like tack it on to the Apple and Food Festival. One caveat that I can think of is theirs is a paid event where ours is completely free. So we'd have to work out, what's that going to look like for us if we do that? Would we, because I know that, local task force aren't going to want to pay for a vendor space. And how would that work with like the repair cafe who's repairing items for free? We don't want to expect, we're not going to want folks to come in with their free repairs and have to pay $10 to enter, so in the free stores. So yeah, the paid entry would have to be something we have to work out between two. So, so just throwing that out there.
Okay.
So
Don, thank you. I want to open up for other people to give their comments, but that was a great summary, I think, of the kind of what went well and what didn't, and a good set of ideas for, where we can improve in the future and opportunities. Jennifer, you've had your hand up for a while.
Sure. I had kind of two areas, one a specific thing and then a more general comment. I had volunteered to man the food waste bins, and that was an impossible job. There were almost no recycling bins. So everyone, when they approached the area, they thought that the food waste thing was where they're supposed to throw their cans. So I spent my time fishing cans out of there. But of course, I could only be in one place at a time. So I know there were stations in other places at the event that I wasn't monitoring. So I was thinking that since Columbia County has this whole food waste processing thing now, it would be great to actually have a table with information about food waste composting and what Columbia County is doing, and maybe have the bins for food waste be near that, because otherwise people don't, especially when there's almost no recycling bins, because people didn't know what to do. People wanted to recycle their cans, but there was nowhere to do that. Actually a person.
Actually, Jennifer, I did put recycling on 6 of the containers throughout the county. There was
right, but they weren't where these clustered garbage and food waste things were. So people actually had a woman like roll one of those recycling bins over to where we were, because she said it's over there all by itself and no one knows that that's where the recycling is. Anyway, I'm just saying I would like to be involved next time, and maybe we can think through kind of how to organize that so it's more obvious to people, because no one knew what to do with their stuff.
Right.
And I ended up leaving it too, because I just kind of gave up because it wasn't working. But the more general comment I had, I felt like the attendance seemed a little sparse, and it seemed like it was mostly like older retired people, and there were almost no young adults there. And I wondered if there was a way that we could have had like one speaker or someone who would have been a draw, because young people aren't going to do something like that on their afternoon when all that's there is like tables for organizations. But if there was one thing, not a band, but someone, one of the things that I felt was there wasn't a lot of climate stuff going on. There was environmental stuff. there was not a whole lot of kind of information specifically about climate, and it would be great if there could be someone who's maybe a little bit well known. I mean, I don't know if we could get somebody to volunteer for something like this, to actually be the main event where to get people inspired about taking action against climate, because it, I guess, didn't have a very strong climate. When I walked around, there just weren't very many booths that were really about climate. And so it seemed less focused on climate than I would have wanted it to be. I don't know what if others felt that way. I walked around a couple times. I think I kind of saw what everyone was doing, and there was environmental stuff, but
Do you mean, I think I know what you mean, but do you mean there wasn't enough about the problems of climate change, like information about why it's urgent, what's happening, how it's affecting us, and it was more just
yeah,
about,
I mean, just
there were plenty of groups there that were focused on their kind of municipal efforts to address climate change. There were, but I get your point about it being more just broad environmental.
yeah, I mean, if people who don't know very much about climate change wanted to go to learn stuff, I didn't
Right.
feel like there was a lot there for them.
That's a good observation, I think.
So there might, I mean, I don't know how that would happen, but I do think having some kind of a inspirational speaker. I mean, I keep thinking about Eben Goodstein, the director of our program. He's so upbeat, and people really, but no one necessarily knows who he is. But if we could get someone famous, would be so great to have,
Yeah, and we have, there are a large number of famous people that live in our area, and I mean, it wouldn't be the right person for younger folks, but I was at a CLC event a number of years ago, and Malcolm Gladwell came and gave this amazing speech about environmental stewardship, and I think it went over a lot of people's heads. It was just that's not what we want to do, but he's certainly a draw for. He is someone like that. So I agree with you. A speaker is a great idea. We can brainstorm that the next time around. So we're getting some good feedback here. Any other comments? Thank you for that, Jennifer. Lisa, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. It was just great. It was my first time there. And I just wanted to comment about the volunteers. Jolene said there weren't enough volunteers. I was in the repair cafe. I was a volunteer there, and we had way too many volunteers. We had so many volunteers. We had more volunteers than people coming in. So if we would have known that the volunteers were needed elsewhere, we could have really switched that out and helped out a lot more. We had no idea that you were so shorthanded. So just that. And then one thing that I really noticed and thought a lot about was, because I was watching people come in, there was no guidance at first when you walk up from the parking lot. Like there was nobody there, like a greeter or a table. Maybe there could be a table next time where when you walk up, that's where you go first, and maybe you get a little map of all the people that are there with their tables, because otherwise you don't really know what it's all about. So there could be a little map, and that's something that people could take home to remind them what they saw, because that's the other thing. You walked around and you talked to a lot of people, but you kind of just forget it. So I think it could be a little more organized with some kind of map of the premises and who's there and their contact names. I just think that would make people, it was like people would sort of come in and not really know, what it was about and what to do first. So that, and then I just wanted to say that it was great to see the EV car with Dawn finally after, all of this. That part was great. And also I thought it was great that they were doing EV car demos as you walk back to the parking. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's the good comments. Thank you, Lisa. I think those are good suggestions. Steve.
First, Don and Jolene, great job. I know there was so much work involved, and it's definitely appreciated. It was pretty amazing. my thoughts are, I don't think we should get involved with a paid event next year. And Don, I think you've outlined all the reasons why we shouldn't. I think it's problematic and will definitely reduce the attendance there. Has there been any thought to going back to maybe something during the summer? Maybe that would increase attendance?
Sure, we could think
There
about
there was a lot going on that weekend. That was another reason, I think. There were a lot of events. September is a very busy event.
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could do one idea is you do something in October and it's more in line with certain kind of harvest seasons. I mean, apples are of course in September, October, but nuts, you know, I mean, this is a total little subculture, so it wouldn't apply directly, but just we've organized and been involved in a couple nut fests, local nut fests the last couple of years. There's not one happening this year. And they're great. You know, there's food and it's so we could I like the idea of a partnership and collaboration. Definitely agree it shouldn't be paid. But if we had more food that was like locally relevant, more harvest, maybe some wine, ciders, there'd be more of, and then speakers, you're creating more of a well-rounded event where we can kind of like get the message under the barn door more subtly. Like people are there to have fun. They're there because it's a fall festival carnival and it happens to be about climate and sustainability and community and all these other important values. Maybe thinking about it more broadly that way and integrating it more into what people in our community value broadly. You know, many of these things, like those types of festivals, that might work better. It might resonate more. Just some easy, cheap thoughts. You know, we'll have plenty of time to kind of noodle on this and figure out the details. Elizabeth, I think you're muted too.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I agree with you, David. I think having a more well-rounded event would draw more people. And I'm not 100% convinced that, you know, having an entrance fee is a deal breaker for a lot of folks. I mean, if we couldn't figure out how to work around that, I don't see that as such a huge problem. I mean, if, you know, if it's $10 a head, or that would probably be for adults, right? And kids would be free. Is that safe to assume, something like that?
Yeah, the Apple Festival was their charge was was a 2-day event. It was for the full weekend. It was $25 per person. For a 1 day was $20 per person. If you were not going to drink, which because there was alcohol about it. If you were just a visitor, it was $10 for entrance. So yeah, they're.
Well, I like the idea of a collaboration. I don't see an entrance fee of some amount as being, you know, fatal.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Okay, great. I think there's consensus. We're not planning on doing this next year. Oh, Christina's got a comment. So we should really not let this is a great generative kind of discussion where we're coming. These are great ideas. I mean, there's so many things that we can do to improve it. And I'm convinced that this is going to turn into a great tradition moving forward. And we just have to kind of work through how to make it bigger, better. And I hope that all the people that were really involved don't see this as a critique. It's building, it's constructive, because I think we're all committed to making this a success in the future. And I think it was in large part a success this time, last time. But this is a great set of ideas, I think, for improvement. Christina.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say again, we were so busy the whole time. I know you guys are saying attendance was down, but it was a really engaged group of people, I will say. And also because we work so much with low-income residents, the percentage of people there who were low income and would have qualified for these assistance programs was really high, much higher than it at most of these kinds of events we go to. So just keeping that in mind, if you do consider moving to a fee, I think that would be a barrier for some people who could really use as kind of an event. And I also just wanted to say, I love the idea of bringing in more young people, and it's cool that Spark of Hudson got involved right at the end, and that might be a good person to collaborate on some youth outreach. They have a lot of teen employees that kind of do ambassadory work around Hudson on all sorts of social justice issues. And also, if you did move it to October when school's a little bit more in session, I think that the Columbia Green Environmental Club would be a good person, a good group to get involved.
Great. Thank you, Christina. Any other comments, feedback? Well, if you have other ideas, email Don and Jolene, and we'll just keep generating this. I'd like to keep a running kind of note on these ideas and continue to build on it. But it makes me excited about the future of this event, not next year, Don, in 2 years, because we can turn this into anything we want. You know, it's not, nothing is set. We have got so many great kind of structures in place, models in place for what we've done, and then all these great ideas to improve it. So I'm excited about it. Let's move along. The climate action plan, not a lot of news here, but oh, Christina, did you have is your hand still up, or is there another comment?
Oh, sorry, it must still be up. Apologies.
Okay. So not a lot to report. We're waiting on, like we said last time, waiting on the grant. We'll hear early 2025, hopefully. We are waiting on the greenhouse gas inventories, end of the year, beginning of next year. The land use subcommittee, this group of us that we got together a couple weeks ago and had a really great discussion about the tools that are out there for assessing, creating a baseline of emissions and sinks and carbon sinks from forests and agriculture. We call it land use, but I mean, really it's going to come down to mostly focused on forests, of which we have a lot and a lot of complex challenges around in our area, and farms. So I think that'll be, and there are tools, software tools, widely accepted, peer-reviewed tools that are available for free, some for a fee, which will allow us to enter available data to determine or use available GIS layers and satellite data to assess kind of the current status of our carbon storage or emissions from forests. And for farms, there are, again, tools that are available, and we identified some. And the key there, even more so than for the forest layer, is really the data that will feed into determining what are the farms on these lands, and what are their practices, and how many heads of cattle, and what kind of manure content are we talking about, what's happening with that manure, what type of crops are being grown, are they annuals, are they orchards, are they, and most of that data, at least at a large scale, like a county-wide scale, is available through USDA census information and other sources, and we're starting to dial in on that question. And so I want to turn it over to maybe Jennifer and Don, who are taking the lead on kind of looking into that for our next meeting, which will be in a few weeks, to continue kind of this. It's an exploration. We're not doing the work yet. We're trying to explore what are the tools, what are the data sources, what are we trying to accomplish, what would be the goals in this area for the purpose of our climate action plan. And one more thought is, in order for this to be effective as a tool for climate change, climate action, planning, and behavioral change, it's probably not enough to say these are the types of forest areas and these are the types of farming activities that are having these impacts with carbon emissions. And if we had a different set of forest uses and farm uses, they would have this different profile, because within each practice, the devil's in the details. Within each type of farm, for example, within each small or large livestock farm, meat or dairy farm, or annual production or orchard production, all of those have many different choices that a farm might make, not just organic or conventional, but those are some of them. But many different options with the types of practices on that farm that will make a huge difference in the aggregate, how manure is managed, cover cropping. And so it's not enough just to delineate what type of farm it is. That won't tell us that much. And then the only change will be, well, do different farms take the place that have a lower impact? And we're not trying to force a different farming practice on people. We're trying to encourage and incentivize farms to innovate with better practices that are available or becoming available to them, and helping them understand the information, the support, the outreach to support those transitions. So it's complicated in a good way, but it's not a simple it's a very it's a subtle and complex task to try to get this right in a way that will actually be meaningful for an action plan. And that's kind of what, and not alienate people. And that's what we're going for. So Jennifer, do you want to add anything to that? Dawn?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Dawn, there has been very few days since we actually met, so I don't know if much has happened, but I can report on a little bit of progress on my side. So just, I have experience using one of the standard USDA simulation models that models greenhouse gas emissions from farming systems. And I've used it with my graduate course that I teach in the spring semester at Bard on climate and agroecology. And so one of the things we discussed that I'm hoping to do, and I've had a little bit of a discussion with the director of my program and probably the main graduate student that would be involved, is to work an exercise into my spring course where we actually kind of test out, pilot a little bit some of the simulation that could serve as examples of these are common practices used in the county, and it's all soil specific to the county, and it uses weather data for the county. And just to get a feel so that our committee can get a feel for the applicability of this particular tool. So I have a pretty good feeling that that's gonna be able to go forward, and the student I've already spoken to is excited about it too. So on the other side of that question, we do need a lot of data on current practices used by farmers in the county. And I sent an email yesterday, I think, to there's a new person at Columbia Green that is sorry, I'm so sorry that my phone is ringing. Go to someone else for a second and I'll be right back.
Okay. Didn't hear it. Oh, okay.
I didn't hear
You
it
gotta
either.
literally go.
Yeah.
Don, you wanna say
Uh,
there?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I can really add right now is we were talking about different GIS layers that we might be able to use. There is the USDA has a cropland data layer that they produce that is tied to the ag census that comes out every 5 years. So we can sort of visualize what types of farms are in different parts of the county. We could maybe augment that a little bit by looking at ag parcels. The property classes of different ag parcels will identify what the predominant type of ag is going on those parcels. We can add in the soils layer. So I think one of the questions we had at our initial meeting with Jennifer was, can we identify what kinds of farms are being on what kinds of soils? And I think we can do that to some extent. Yeah. So that's where I am with that right now.
And isn't it just so great that we have a GIS expert who's not only on our task force, but our coordinator? I mean, it's so helpful in so many ways. Jennifer, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll just finish that up. Aaron Gabriel was the field crops guy at Columbia Green forever, and he just retired, and he was the person that I knew to contact there, but I just looked up whoever the replacement person is and sent them an email yesterday just to have an initial conversation with them on the phone about the kinds of data that I would need, and in terms of standard practices for tillage and fertility, the two main things that are going to influence the emissions from these systems are tillage type, no-till versus minimum till versus full tillage, and fertilizer routines because of the nitrous oxide emissions from nitrogen fertilizer, and then cover crop use. And so anyway, I just made a little bit of progress there. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I'll pursue that just so that I can kind of, even though I wouldn't be actually setting up the model to do this until after the beginning of the new year, it's useful, I think, for us to just start to get a relationship with somebody who can help us with the data. So.
Yeah, and one thing that we really haven't explored, but would be useful, and I'm not even sure where to start, is who else is doing any of this at a scale like ours? Has it been done? I'm sure it has, but I would think so. And what can we learn from that?
I mean, it has been done at kind of a academic. There's papers written of people who, people that have fancier skills than I do, that have set up their computers to model every single, plot of ground in Iowa and stuff using Comet. But for an applied program with respect to a greenhouse gas inventory, what Cale has told me, Cale, who is the guy from ICLEI who has a lot of experience with these inventories, he said that very few places are actually modeling this at this level of detail. They're using much more kind of ballpark, back of the envelope greenhouse gas emissions from ag for these inventories.
Right, and it's data. It's because, how do you get apples to apples data over a timeline at a certain level? Like, you'd have to be doing a local survey to get more granular data than what comes from the, so that's going to be really interesting to explore as we go forward. But Christina has a comment.
Hi, Jennifer. I just wanted to make sure you are in contact with Savannah Shellnut, who works at CCE Harvest, but she's based in Hudson and does a lot of ag resiliency work locally, and probably has a good idea of how some of these things could be done or have been done. And then there's another gentleman named Ben Crockett, who actually met at the Climate Carnival for the first time. He was tabling for Climate Smart Berkshire Ag Ventures, but they work in Columbia County as well. So those might be helpful to this effort.
Yeah, I'm just recently in touch with Savannah, but I hadn't contacted her about this because I didn't think they were a field crops person, but I certainly can. I need to talk to them about something else anyway. But the other name that you mentioned, if you have contact information for them, maybe you could send that to me.
Yes, I'll email that to you right now.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I know Ben pretty well, and BAV, as they go by, Berkshire Agricultural Ventures. And they're a nonprofit based in the Berkshires, but again, work in Northwest Connecticut and Columbia County and Berkshire County. And they do a lot of extension work. They do micro loans and other loans for farms. They're very practically minded. They raise grant money, private donor money. So they could be a good partner. I'm actually meeting with Ben in a week or so about other stuff. So I'll bring this up just to brainstorm a little, where there might be some potential collaboration, because they're good partners. That's a good idea, Christina. Thank you. Anyone else? So that's where we're at. It's early days, but we're trying to get a real sense. We don't want to just get the grant and then be scrambling. Oh, what should we actually do here? We want this to be thoughtful. And thanks to Jennifer and Don, I think we're on track, and everyone else on this little subcommittee. I think we're on track to do that. So that's great. Moving along. Any other questions, comments on that? Just raise your hand. Okay. We've got some more good news out of, all I can think is the money keeps rolling. Don, you're just doing a wonderful job here. So give us an update on what's happening with all this clean energy funding and what it's being used for.
Yes, I guess, let's see. Here. The NYSERDA grants are all moving forward. We have, as of Monday, we are officially a 4-star clean energy community status. 4 stars. We have a total of 7,500 points in that program, which is what we needed to qualify for the next grant that we want to apply for. Came in like the cutoff date was October 1st, so they waited till we had 0 days left to let us know that we qualified. But let me see if I can open up this one scorecard here.
So Don, while you're doing that, that means that we get an additional 412,500 from what
Yes,
was previously kind of designated.
right. That's the next grant that we are trying to apply for, and that's making its way. The full board meets next week, so it should, the letter commitment resolution to move forward, that should pass, I believe. But here's where we are. Columbia County 7,500. We just surpassed. We're kind of going back and forth with Albany County. They were ahead of us for a couple of weeks, but now we've passed them. So we are the smallest county with a 4-star designation in all of New York State. I think there are 5 counties that are 4-star designated. We are the smallest one. I'd also point out that, where are we? Oh, that replay. Okay. It reset there. I'm sorry. But I also noticed on the new SCAR card that New Lebanon is now 5-star designated. So congratulations to them. They have 9,100 points total. So I just noticed that happened like within the last few days.
Yep. Now
so
we're up to
yeah.
9,700 too, by the way.
97. Okay. So congratulations,
counting.
Steve. Yep. Keep powering away. As far as the other grants, everything we have, the four EV chargers just went live, I think yesterday at 401 State Street. So if anybody wants to come over and visit and charge up while you're visiting here, you can do that now. I think that's basically my update, Dave. Everything else is
Just a quick question on the EV chargers. Is that charge point? So like you can charge with charge point as a member of the public?
No, yeah. Those are it's actually Vialink is the name of the app that you install on your phone. It's not a charge point is a different company.
Okay. So it's a new app.
Yes.
All right.
But they are open to the public. Yes.
That's great. So in total, how many EVs and how many EV charging stations will we have by the end of the year?
We have 4 now, 4 EV cars. We just had a little email discussion about the 5th one will not be here until early November. Now it's supposed to be here in September, but they are a little slower arriving. So early November we'll have our fifth one. We are part of this next grant application. We are possibly going to buy a 6th EV. And the reason for doing that would be we would bump up our points and we would attain 5-star designation right up there with New Lebanon. And that would qualify us for another grant of up to $450,000.
Wow. Amazing. And now you have the infrastructure to support that. What's the feedback you're hearing from county employees who are using these cars?
They're being used heavily. So yes.
Are people, generally aware, other than the people that are using them in, county government? And is there any kind of positive or negative chatter around it?
No, not now that they're in use. I haven't heard any negative. There was some apprehension at first before we got them, yes. But from the folks that are using them, they're nice cars,
Yeah.
they are, it's,
Yeah.
they're much nicer than the cars that they replaced. I can tell you that. They were, we were driving around in 10-year-old Ford Focuses
Right.
that were pretty beat up. So these are much nicer car, brand new, big, they drive really nice.
Yep.
Lots of, you step on the accelerator and it takes off, and
Yep.
so they are impressive cars when the folks are driving them. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Well, again, amazing work. And then there's the heat pump project at the courthouse that's moving forward.
Yeah, we just got the contract back from NYSERDA, which was signed. So there are just a couple more, I's to dot and T's to cross with NYSERDA before they give us the go forward memo.
Great.
That's things at night. I will say that things at NYSERDA are moving rather slowly lately. I don't know why that is, but things are taking a lot more time to move through their process than it was in the past. I don't know if it's just because these are bigger projects we're working on or what's going on, but that's quite noticeable.
And aren't they changing the program at the end of the year?
I no word on that. I don't
Okay.
know.
We had heard something like that. Okay. Thomas. Tom, do you have a
yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, great. So I just the last comment about dealing with NYSERDA. I know Philmont has been having an issue where we put in for a matching grant for a particular project, and it was both the consultants and everyone else that we were dealing with for this type of grant said, oh, it's typical for NYSERDA to match it, and they did reject it. So there is something going on at NYSERDA. Everyone was quite surprised that we got a rejection on that matching grant, and that was to decarbonize the village hall. So we're now scrambling around to see how to get funds in some other way. For the electric charging stations, can you please spell the name of the app?
What is the
While you're looking for that,
Yeah.
just had I wanted to make a suggestion and see what people thought about doing a press release. I think it's more, time is ripe to toot the collective horn of the county for doing this work and doing it kind of quietly and methodically and without a lot of hyperventilation to just move forward. And I think it's been a great example of how we can make progress without getting bogged down in argument and debate. To do the right thing, it makes sense on so many levels. And I'd like to get this out so people are aware of it, so that the county gets credit for doing this work and doing it well. So I don't know. I know, Don, there's a whole process of media outreach. Can we get something moving? Can we work on a press release and then work through the county government to get the proper approvals to do that? Try to get some attention.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can we get back to answering my question, because I had a couple of other things as well.
Okay. I was just giving Don some time to, that's right, Tom. I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Some time to find the name of the app.
The name of the company that installed the chargers is Livingston Energy. And the name of the app is Vialink, and it's VIALYNK. Vialink.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead,
And
Tom.
what level are those chargers?
They're all level 2 chargers. And
Level.
yeah. 30
And has
cents,
it-
30 cents
has-
per kilowatt hour for public use. There's a charge.
Okay, and has there been any discussion on the success of moving into the future on level 2? Because everyone is really concentrating on the fast chargers. So what was the estimation on how long these level 2 chargers would last? Is it the next 2 years? Is it?
Oh, yeah, they'll be around for quite a while. Yes. I mean, we have a contract with Livingston Energy to maintain them for, I think, 5 years at least. And I don't, there's no discussion about ever getting rid of them. I mean, they may need some maintenance in the future, but as far as the DC fast chargers, we've been having a lot of discussion over the years, David and I and other folks, about trying to get fast chargers installed, but that's a whole different ball game with grid capacity and the 10 times the cost of a level 2 to start with.
Yeah, I think, Tom, I
Yeah.
think in our exploration, we recognize the pros and cons of a level 2 and a level 3, but not that there's a role for both. It's not that we are going to use the level 2 to progress through to everything being a level 3. As anyone that has a home charger knows, that's typically a level 2. If you've installed something at your home, that's more than sufficient to operate a car perpetually, because you have hours to charge. And every day you get a full charge at night, even a few hours. And so the idea, I think, in the county is these are fleet vehicles that are similar to a home vehicle. So the primary impetus to install the infrastructure there as level 2 is it's serving vehicles that are going to sit there every night and get charged fully for the next day. So that there's no need to spend the kind of money needed for a supercharger or a level 3 in that case. In the case of the public accessibility in the county, we've got level 2s that are really designed for people that are going to be there for a few hours, and you can get a lot of charge in an hour, even 30 miles on a proper level 2. But if you're there going to dinner, shopping, or you're working, and you're just a member of the public working there, charging your own car, you might be there for many hours, and that would be more than enough. The level 3s with superchargers or DC fast chargers are needed. Exploration, some mapping into where in the county might be the sweet spot. We looked at, I don't know if you were on the task force at this time when we were doing this last year, but we looked at where do we have the grid capacity, where do we have the average vehicles, the use of how many vehicles are passing by every day, and how the congestion of the corridor, so where you'd hit most traffic, and also where you have local things for people to do, shopping or restaurants or supermarkets, where they would show up, plug in for a half hour, run some errands, and then take off, or where they're passing through in a transit corridor. And there are great opportunities for those DC fast chargers, and we need more of them. But we've not been able to make a whole lot of progress with either private business owners or with municipalities where we identified the best spots. We've met with people in the Chatham-Ghent area. We've reached out to people, I think Greenport, the supervisor of Greenport, the supervisor of Livingston, where we identified near Bell's Pond there was a good spot, and we didn't get much feedback. Then in Ghent and Chatham, we reached out and got good feedback from the supervisors in those towns, but we hit a wall when we reached out to the private partners at Price Chopper. That was one of the spots that we were looking at. Couldn't make any progress with the corporation who owns the land and the place where we thought that charger might go. So it's tricky, and we'll continue to, we haven't really worked on that recently. And if anyone wants to help us kind of revive that effort, we have a lot of good information. And now we have this partnership with Livingston Energy at the county level. And they could be a great partner for level 3s as well. But it's complicated. These are hundreds of thousands of dollars of investments that require complicated private-public partnerships. And level 2s are much easier. So anyway, it's a long answer, but just to try to address the broad question of where we're at with level 2s versus level 3s.
Okay, so I thank you for that answer, but Philmont is engaged in deciding whether we go to a level 2 or a level 3. And, thank you for all the information you provided. However, so there may be resistance by doing a partnership, but the market is telling us that there'll come a day when level 2 charges for the public are not going to work. So the question is when does that day come? 5 years from now, I suspect the public, the market for level 2 charges will not be very big. We already have proof of this through the supercharging station right in Hudson at the Stewart's shops. So as that develops further, these level 2s, I think, will be in jeopardy, and that's the sort of problem that Philmont is facing now. We have a level 2 charger that the company went out of business. It sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't, and we definitely want to replace it, but we're considering that doing it with a level 2 just does not make sense considering where the market's going.
Yeah, I think there's a lot there that you're right about. But there's still an application for level 2s that will not go away because they're more affordable and they're easy to install and they require less infrastructure. So for the fleet vehicles, there's no question that level 2s will continue to serve an important kind of purpose. And for residents and office workers that can park for many hours, there's no reason for a level 3 charger. So there's still a role for both, but I hear you. And in fact, I think that 217 Main Street corridor in Philmont was one, if I remember correctly, Don, was one of the areas that we identified. There's quite a bit of traffic. I can't remember what the capacity was in terms of the grid, but I think it was available readily. We can look that up. I'm sure you've looked at all this. But in Philmont, but if you don't have the data from what Don did, it might be helpful and we can share that.
That would be great. Yeah, so I'll contact you, Don, about that. I also have an announcement about Philmont. I don't know if this is the right time to do it.
We usually do it at the end, but
Fine.
go ahead. You can make the announcement now. If it's not too long and we want to get to a couple other items, then we'll go back to it. So go ahead, Tom.
It's very short. So Philmont did get bronze certification, and we
Nice.
also got to the 5,000 points. So we
Great.
will be able to get the $100,000 grant, hopefully.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Go Philmont.
Great.
Thank you so much for the update. And these are, we really, we could revive that effort and we should. We've been busy with other things and limited capacity, but if there's interest among this group to kind of try to revive that effort, to reach out again to some of those business leaders and municipal leaders in these communities to get some additional support. There's not much the county can do or this task force directly other than provide the information that Don has put together and connect the developers, the charging developers like Livingston Energy and others with the local business leaders and the local municipal leaders, and to make the case, to explain the benefits and start exploring what the very technical and custom kind of deal would be. They're all different, right? You can have a charger that's owned by the company that installs it. You can have it be some sort of hybrid approach with the business owner. It can be on private land, on public land. So it's when you're talking about a few $100,000 a pop, it's complicated, and so you got to work through each deal. But if there's a group here that wants to spend time on that, let me and Don know, and we can get a call together and try to develop a plan to revive that effort, because it has gone a little quiet. So thanks for that discussion, bringing that up, Tom.
Okay.
So a couple other items: Capital Region Clean Energy Hub. Christina, anything to report?
No new updates really. We are just plugging along, working through the beginning of the IRA rollout through the low income Empower Plus program. There is supposedly a timeline that will be reaching a market rate clientele in the next few months, but we haven't heard a lot of details on that program. So I'm a little cautious in my optimism that it will be here before the end of the year. But when it is, we will hopefully be able to guide people through some savings on energy efficiency work in their homes.
Nice. Great. Thank you. And Audrey, CCE, any update there?
I think Audrey left, had to leave. So I think I saw her sign off. But I will just note that there's a CDRPC conference on October 18th up at Hudson Valley Community College, where her and I and one other, I forget the other person's name, are going to give a little presentation on the CARP process and how that benefited the county and how that whole process fits in with some of the other things, like plans that the county is working on, like the hazard mitigation plan.
Cool. Thank you, Don. And Haley, thank you. She put in the notes where you can register if you're interested in joining the conference. It's in the chat.
David, I'll be also speaking on the CEC panel too about our experience in New Lebanon. With the
Nice.
Clean Energy Communities Program.
Great. And congratulations to New Lebanon for the great progress you continue to make.
Thank you.
Amazing. All right. Well, this is where we open it up for any other additional kind of discussion or updates from local task forces or local community efforts, projects, announcements. But before we do, I just wanted to bring that up again. Is any thoughts? I think a press release would be a great idea. We can kind of continue this offline, but are there any other comments or thoughts on that? Just to kind of highlight the clean energy grant work and all the projects that it's funded.
Yeah, I think, officially we're supposed to work through the Board of Supervisors with these official press releases. So maybe Denal and Brenda might be able to help out with that. That's my only comment, Dave.
Okay. Well, why don't we follow up offline with Denal and Brenda, and we'll see what we can do. I mean, I think it's ripe for an article or two, and maybe even some sort of other media that could come out and make note of it. So okay. Well, any updates from around the horn? Let's go around the horn.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
All right, we Taconic just had heat pumps installed at our town garage yesterday. So that project's done, and the site work for putting the solar panels on the roof is well underway. And we're tickled about that. And I just wanted to mention one more time that on October 13th, Tim Kennelty, Master Gardener, I'm sure many of you know him, will be giving a talk at the Taconic Firehouse, which may well be his swan song. And I know he's working really hard on a special presentation. So try to catch that one. I think it's going to be special.
What time is that?
It's at 10 o'clock. Don's already, thank you, Don, put it on the calendar, and, we'll be getting the word out a little bit more. We've started to put some posters up, and it's going to be on social media in the next couple of days, but don't miss that one. It's going to be good. It's planting a pollinator garden 101, but it might be your last chance to see our man, Tim, who's a really great presenter, and he's really entertaining, and he's really working hard on this one.
Yeah, a terrific person and super knowledgeable, and try to make that if you can. I just put it on my calendar. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
All right. If we don't have anything else, we're going to release ourselves to go continue all this great work and get on with our lives otherwise. So thank you all again. This has been a good discussion, a lot of good ideas. And again, just to kind of highlight the EV discussion, that work, we made some inroads, we had some meetings, we didn't really get anywhere with it. Don did some great work on the information side, which is still very relevant, could be updated potentially at some point if there are changes, but that's a really great resource that can be used in a community like Philmont or elsewhere that's engaged in these efforts. But broadly speaking, we haven't addressed, to Tom's point, we haven't addressed the need for more fast charging capacity throughout the county with only one supercharger, Tesla supercharger in Hudson. And it is a challenge, and it does limit the adoption of people buying these cars. I mean, the one game changer for Tesla is that they have this supercharging network, and it makes a huge difference. They supposedly are opening it up to other cars, but that seems to be slow. I don't even know if it's happened yet, and it's contingent on them getting funding through the Inflation Reduction Act. They're getting billions more as part of the deal to open this up. I don't know where that stands. It seems like there were announcements, and all the automakers were talking about it, or many of them that are switching over to the North American Charging Standard, which is that Tesla, it's a superior supercharging technology to the non-Tesla one, no doubt. So there's another question there, which is, let's say we install a bunch of fast chargers that have the wrong charging plug. I don't think it's a huge deal to switch them over, but it's a cost. It is something. So there's some complications here, but if folks are interested in convening to try to move that forward in some meaningful way at the county level and do some more of this outreach, see if we can make some tangible progress, I'm totally open to it. And I know Don and I would help as much as we can. So just let us know and just reach out. And if we get a few people